Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Game number 165 on the 8th of July. And all of you who reminded me to turn my mic on, you are all the MVPs. Thank you very much. I can hear Bruce and Nikki snickering in the background because I also turned on their microphones. And let's head over and check that that's all happening. Yay! Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey guys.
You can also see that Bruce is in the office, or what looks to be the center of the sun. It's bright, man.
Yeah, it's very white.
Yeah.
Very whitewashed.
Much like this stream. Oof. 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 It is what it is. But you are having a good time in the office? Are there a bunch of people in there? I know it's been increasing the amount of people going into the office.
Yeah, the second wave, as I call them, came in, I think, last week. So
Yeah.
there's more and more coming in every day. So it's kind of nice to see some human faces.
Friends confirmed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've forgotten what that's like.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. Nikki, how about you? Working from home's going okay?
Yeah, it's been okay so far. It's like I live in Denmark, so traveling to Sweden
That's right.
and
Yeah.
them having very different approaches to the whole situation makes things complicated sometimes. But it's kind of nice actually because my wife is also very pregnant, so I can just be at home and keep an eye on her and
That's
just
good.
have lunch together and so that's cool.
Nice. Well, glad to hear it. I want to go through some priority alerts. I was just in the background making sure I spelled everyone's name correctly. Did it work? Yes. Okay, cool. There was a maintenance performed yesterday, and the Operation Iron Horse raid is now available for level 30 players. There was a possible exploit fix that allowed characters to become invincible when entering a cutscene with their shield deployed. There was an issue fixed where players could be stuck in the Seasons tab. Also fixed an issue that caused the Season Pass project to remain completed after the timer of the project reset. The raid RPG bug, I know a lot of people were talking about that just before. We're aware of the bug that allows players with a specific build to fire an unlimited amount of RPG shots. A fix for this will be deployed tomorrow during the maintenance. And we are investigating solutions for the leaderboards because we do know that's pretty breaks the raid quite a bit. Like I mentioned during the countdown, State of the Game will be going on a summer break. A lot of us in and out of the office are going to be off until the first week of August. There will still be information on the website and also on Twitter and all that stuff. And there will be still people working, but I will not be working and some others will not. So we've decided to take a break off. That we do that every year, just so you know. Division 1 global event strike. We talked about it last week, and it will start on the 13th of July, so that's next week. And that's all of the priority alerts information. And I want to get into all of the stuff that you guys have in upcoming 10.1. So let's start with the tentative release date. We are aiming for July 21st, so that would be 2 weeks away. And 10.1 is going to... Actually, I'll let you guys describe exactly what 10.1 is going to be, because I guess from each of your perspectives it might be a little different. Bruce, do you want to start? Because with Nikki, we do have some slides that we'll show soon.
Yeah, sure. So 10.1 is going to be it's an interim patch, so it's between 10 and TU11, so it's not going to be very large in terms of new content or anything like that. But I wanted to particularly take this opportunity to do some adjustments for balance with some skills, and in particular PvP balance adjustments. So I can go into the more nitty-gritty details a bit later and just sort of segue over maybe to Nikki and let him kind of describe or go into stuff that he's been working on.
I like that. Let's do the top level for both of you, and then we'll go into... I know you said you had some patch notes that you could maybe pick out some things from. I always love when you have some knowledge bombs to drop, so we'll get to that soon. Nikki, what does 10.1 mean to you?
Yeah, I think what Bruce is saying is correct. Like, it's the quickest patch after Q10, and in Q10 we changed a whole lot of things. So it's good that we have a 10.1 to kind of address some of the immediate things that come up in this period of time. and also just follow up on some of the things that we kind of knew maybe needed like a two-step approach. So that's why some of the stuff that either didn't make it into TU10 or needs another pass after TU10, that's what we're focusing on now for 10.1.
Cool. All right, Bruce, so you got those patch notes ready?
Yeah, sure. I guess we can just sort of dive into it. I've been working to get everything done in time, so bear with me. This is a little bit rough. I'm going off of a notepad right now. Okay. But I guess we could sort of like start with addressing one thing that's been sort of plaguing the community for a while is the issue with loadout swapping and skill cooldowns. So when you have like a skill that's on cooldown, we are preventing you from swapping your loadouts. That is going to be fixed. So now you'll be able to swap a loadout if a skill is on cooldown. So that's a nice improvement there, of course. But as well, we wanted to sort of address one of the things that was making one of the particular skills really egregious in terms of it locking you out of both loadouts and swapping skills, which is the Revive Hive. So we're making a somewhat significant change to its sort of base behavior. Sorry, one sec. The game was running in the background and I'm being blasted by music. Okay, sorry about that. So what we're doing with the Revive Hive is we're going to actually reduce the number of charges it has at base, at skill tier 0. On live currently it has 4 charges. We're going to reduce it down to 1 charge. And we're going to also reduce the cooldown or the time it takes to recharge a revive charge from 240 seconds down to 180 seconds, or 3 minutes. Okay. So that should hopefully somewhat help alleviate, or it's going to significantly alleviate the issue of I'm playing with the Revive Hive, I go down, I self-revive, and then I have to wait, what was it, 16 minutes, I think, to gain all 4 charges in order to swap the skill out. Whereas now you'll only have to wait for 1 charge to tick, so 3 minutes, and then you'll be able to swap the Revive Hive out. This doesn't change anything from a solo perspective if you're just using the Revive Hive alone and relying on it for a self-revive. This is arguably sort of, an undeniable nerf to the strength of the Revive Hive in terms of group content when you have no skill tiers. But we felt that this is a better compromise, and it's always felt a little bit odd that a skill tier 0 player could revive himself and his whole squad essentially with a Revive Hive. So this is going to preserve the integrity of the Revive Hive as a tool if you've got no skill tier to keep yourself in the fight or get one person up if you so choose, and you'll have a slightly more generous cooldown as well there, so you can get that charge back faster. And it's also and I should obviously mention that you'll gain now 1 charge per skill tier, so nothing really changes as far as how many charges you have at 6 skill tiers. You're still going to be able to revive up to 7 people with that Revive Hive. So that's a big one, I guess. There's also some other changes related to the Foundry Bulwark. So it's an undeniably powerful set, and we're actually pretty happy with where it is. But one thing that we kind of were a little bit too generous with was the 3-piece bonus and how powerful it is in terms of keeping you alive. And one of the things that we try to do with gear sets is the 1 and the 2-piece bonuses are kind of like a roadmap in a way for like, this is how the gear set, what the gear set is supposed to do and how you're kind of supposed to use it. So it's sort of like, Foundry, I'm trying to think of a gear set example. Tip of the spear, right? The 2 and 3-piece bonuses increase the signature weapon damage and your weapon damage, because we're kind of saying like those are the core ingredients to using this gear set effectively. So with Foundry Bulwark, what we want to do is sort of like reinforce the identity of the set, which is something to be used with a shield, whether it's the Bulwark or the Striker or the Crusader shield. With but we want to reduce the effectiveness of the gear set without the 4-piece bonus. Because right now the 3-piece is just a little bit overtuned. So we're reducing the armor regen per second from 3% down to 1%. But with 3 pieces, we're going to increase your shield health by 50%. So what you lose in your self-preservation with no shield, you're going to gain with a shield, and we feel like that's a more fair balance. Because that's really the core identity of the set, is its interaction with you and a shield, not just you being extra tanky and able to face tank things. So essentially, if you can think of plus 50% shield health as it's a skill tier, basically. So equipping 3 pieces of Foundry Bulwark is going to give you 1 more skill tier for the shield. And this is also, I guess, segues into a fix that we've applied to the Forge named holster, which, as it exists on live, increases shield health by 10%. There was like that's not really, it doesn't do what we kind of want it to, unfortunately, because of it being like an additive bonus versus a multiplicative bonus. So we fixed the math there, and now Forge increases shield health by 50% as well. So again, think of it like a skill tier. So if you equip that holster, you're kind of boosting your shield health quite significantly. And at 50%, it's comparable to Motherly Love gloves, which give you a 10% increase to your shield health. So at 6 skill tiers or 6 blue cores, Forge will give you an equal amount of health as Motherly Love does. So if you want, you can combine the two. Motherly Love doesn't scale as well at low skill tiers, whereas Forge actually has the inverse effect, where it's actually quite powerful at low skill tiers or blue cores. Should I keep going? Because there's PvP stuff I'd like to
Keep
also
going, man.
address. But I feel
no
bad
rush today.
because Nikki is kind of like waiting on on stage left, to come in with other juicy stuff. But I might as well just
you just wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Okay.
Rip it up.
So
I mean, wrap it up as in like just finish.
Yeah,
what you need to finish.
The shepherd's crook is like coming out from this, Bugs Bunny reference. Okay, PvP balance, specific PvP balance. So assault rifles are going to increase. So the damage of all assault rifles in PvP is going to increase by 9% in 10.1. This is to kind of they didn't really I guess overcompensated with the reduction in their damage with Title Update 10. So we're going to give them a little bit more of what they had previously in order to solidify them as kind of like, if you're using them at their optimal range, an assault rifle should beat an SMG at 20 plus meters, for example, or a shotgun. Right now we've got very strong rifles and we've got very strong SMGs and shotguns. We need a weapon to be strong somewhere between there, right? So ideally, or hopefully, this will allow the assault rifles to have more of a place in the meta right now. This one is going to burn, no pun intended, our skill users, but the fire starters chem launcher's explosion damage is being reduced by 50%. We wanted to address this without necessarily taking such a significant nerf to its explosive damage, but really there's no way to rationally justify the amount of damage it does and how it behaves, because it ignores cover, it ignores walls. You have many charges at high skill tiers, and it was doing too many things in terms of both being high burst damage as well as, the burn damage, which is also a crowd control effect. And while you can negate a significant amount or most of the burn effect with hazard protection, there really was no way of building or countering the explosive damage.
Okay, Bruce, I see a good follow-up question from chat. Is that PvP only or PvE and PvP?
No, this is PvP only. So anything
Okay,
that I say
right.
from this point forward is only going to apply to PvP. So
All right.
lower the pitchforks and torches.
Nah, I'm getting my pitchfork, man. Like,
All right.
relentless.
All right.
I'm ready.
Yeah. So, and just to reiterate or to make sure that it's clear, like that assault rifle buff of 9% damage, again, only applies to PvP. It's not applying to PvE in any way. Okay, so this is both a PvP and PvE thing. We're going to try something with the booster hive that I think is going to make a lot of people happy. Now, currently on live, the booster hive increases your weapon damage by 10% and weapon handling by 10% and melee damage by 10%, which I don't think anyone's even aware of.
Okay.
And then it can go up to 16% of all of those values at 6 skill tiers.
I will say that there is a list of things in the global event day 2 of Hollywood where you have to melee enemies. So it is situationally beneficial.
It is, but the that little discrete 10% melee damage doesn't really add up to much at the end. Because if you look at Lady Death is multiplying your melee damage by 500%, and that makes
I
tried.
Yeah.
Don't we have another named item that does that as well at 500 or something? Yeah.
Claws out, so you can multiply your melee damage by 10, and then you can actually do some serious melee damage. The booster hive really wasn't contributing to that though in any meaningful way. So what we're going to do, the booster hive is going through another identity overhaul. It's going to retain its weapon handling buff and melee damage buff, because why not? And it's going to lose the weapon damage buff component to it. But what it's gaining is hazard protection. So every time the booster hive buffs you, you're going to gain at base, at 0 skill tiers, you're going to gain 20% hazard protection, 20% weapon handling, and 20% melee damage. At 6 skill tiers, that buff goes up to 60% weapon handling, 60% hazard protection, and melee damage. So it's not going to give you immunity, and it's not going to necessarily cleanse. But I think that this is going to give the booster hive a more interesting sort of place in the meta and group dynamic synergy and whatnot. So if you want to, again, in PvE or PvP, if you equip 3 hazard protection mods, right, and you have 30% there, if you run the booster hive, you'll have 90% hazard protection. So I think this is going to sort of like address some of the concerns that the PvP players have with, sort of like the rampancy of status effects and whatnot, while also giving sort of PvE players maybe something to opt into if they'd like to have something that's both going to significantly, again, and this is coming on the backs of the buff to weapon handling, right? So 60% weapon handling is it's big. Like that's a huge increase to your recoil accuracy and reload speed, right?
That was my question. Reload speed is included in weapon handling, right?
It is, yeah.
So there is still an effective DPS increase through weapon
There
handling.
is an effective DPS increase, and while it's difficult to give one number, like it's equivalent to the old 10% weapon damage increase. It doesn't really work that way because depending on your weapon's magazine size and base reload speed as a modifier or an attribute is going to increase your net DPS differently, right? So, but it's still, I don't know, it's probably a I don't know, I'd have to crunch some numbers, but let's just say it's roughly equivalent to 10 to 15% weapon damage
Depends on,
overall.
Obviously, there's a bit of a Sleipner
Or
LMG
DPS, I should say,
meta.
sorry.
The first thing, like that LMG with 60% reload speed, interesting.
It's spicy, yeah. It's hopefully again, because the Hive right now, and there's a whole host of other adjustments that are more minor or subtle that I've also made to all of the Hives across the board to sort of increase their usability or quality of life and whatnot, that I won't get into because we'll be here all day. But the Hive as a skill platform, there's a lot of it's a competitive skill platform, right? As in all of the variants are quite powerful in their own right. So hopefully this is going to allow the booster Hive to stand out a little bit more, or enter the roster of more teams. But yeah, I mean, I can really quickly also just state, like, so one of the things that we did to the Restorer Hive was increase the drone flight speed every skill tier. I've gone and applied that to all of the Hive variants, so including the Stinger Hive. So the Stinger Hive is getting a little bit of a buff there because those things will hit you faster, as well as, Artificer Hive, Revive Hive. They're all going to, feel a lot more responsive at higher skill tiers.
Okay.
And because I'm doing my best to try and give, again, skill users, I don't want to use the term crutch because that's somewhat offensive to skill users. Like, so in PvP, the Fire Chem or Firestarter Chem launcher, it's popular because it does a lot of damage and it applies crowd control. But what I'm hoping is going to happen with this nerf is that skill users who were relying on it for burst damage will look at the sticky and the explosive seeker mine, or other skills for their burst damage. I can say from experience in my own testing that the sticky bomb launcher does a lot of damage, and I think it's been living in the shadow of the Fire Chem launcher, right? So I'm hoping that this is going to sort of like open the doors a little bit more to allow other skill variants, or other skill platforms to kind of like shine in the role of doing burst damage, and where it's a burst damage skill that doesn't also set you on fire or bleed you and whatnot, right? So it's easier to tune and it's easier to balance. With that being said, the striker drone damage for the second time in a row is going to receive another damage buff in PvP only. Again, just make sure that's clear. It's getting a 38% damage buff. I want, ideally, the turret and the striker drone, or the assault turret and the striker drone, they're meant to kind of like be, each one is sort of like 30 or 33% of your damage as a skill user. The striker drone was just not there. The turret is now. The turret is quite deadly or scary in its own right. But one of the things that makes buffing the striker drone difficult is that it's so hard to track and shoot. So in order to address that, in order to address sort of like a host of other issues in PvP when it comes to countering powerful skill platforms, all deployed skills are now going to take 4 times more damage from hostile players. So it's going to be 4 times easier to shoot down a striker drone, or it's going to be 4 times easier to shoot a turret, destroy a hive, and whatnot. So while that's the thing, like I want to give skill users more options, I also want to give players who are the victims of skill users options as well. And this is why I guess I can also just segue into addressing another hot topic discussion in the PvP community, which centers around the Riot Foam Chem launcher. A lot of people want to see it like nerfed into the ground. While I appreciate and understand where some of the frustration is coming from, and while I'm hoping the booster hive is going to somewhat sort of alleviate the sense of unfairness or frustration with it, or it's sort of like its prolificness in the DZ. I also want to say that the foam has not a counter, but it has a mechanic that's built in for you to get out of it, right? And it takes 1 second for you to break out of foam. The base duration of the riot foam in PvP is 3 seconds. So you don't have to sit there for 3 seconds. You can break out of the foam. And if you have hazard protection, it's obviously going to be reducing that as well. I'm still deliberating on whether or not to reduce the base duration of the riot foam in PvP to lower it from 3 seconds to something slightly lower. But again, like it's important to keep in mind, like it is a skill that has there's a mechanic there to allow you to escape it. And while it can be frustrating to be snared or foamed and then killed, like it's a tool that someone has chosen to equip and put on their skill bar that's taking up 50% of that real estate, right? Mm-hmm. Skills should feel somewhat viable and useful at skill tier 0 for users who aren't entirely dedicated or focused on skill tiers. That creates, compelling use cases. So while I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm still looking at the situation and deciding what exactly to do there. I'm hoping that the change to the booster hive and various other things will kind of not necessarily change that meta entirely or make people suddenly stop using the foam launcher, because again, like I personally like the fact that it exists because it is a counter to chicken dancing. If you're frustrated with chicken dancing, foam the guy, right? And then you can kill him. If we remove it entirely, well, then chicken dancing just becomes more prevalent or the dominant meta or strategy again, right? At which point people will start saying like, hey, the chicken dance meta sucks, Sure. So, hey. Yep. I think that's it. I mean, there's a few other things, but I've taken up enough time.
If you do see any other questions that you have answers
Sure.
for, just drop them in. I did want to quickly ask, is there any change to Headhunter? I love it. Don't change it, please.
No changes to Headhunter that I'm
cool.
aware of, unless someone snuck something in, but that shouldn't have been the case.
All right, Nikki, do you want to start with slides, or is there anything you want to say before we get to the PowerPoint stuff?
I think like my biggest focus for TU10 was, of course, addressing loot, making it more generous, that we've said multiple times. So what we needed to do was change a little bit like how the system works. And so that change has done to a degree what we wanted to do, but not entirely. And I think if we go through the slides, I can explain better like what is the actual change that we did visually, so that players kind of understand of like, hey, how did this change? What is the result? And how are we going to address it further?
All right. Well, I can click through this at your whim. So loot power distribution, when is this coming? Just so people understand.
So this is what we're going to talk about is how it is in TU10 now, how it was before TU10, and what we're going to do for 10.1.
All right,
so let's start off with the first slide, which is pre-TU10. So on the horizontal axis, we have loot power, like the average rolls of your items. And then on the vertical axis, we have the chance of that item dropping at that power. And as you can see here, we have like, in this example, I've said like, it always rolls between a minimum of 50% and a maximum of 100%. But as you can see, this curve means that the lowest chance, the lowest power has the highest chance of happening. And that is something that we wanted to address. So instead of using this curve, we changed how this is calculated to normal distribution, which gives you a nice little bell curve. And this is how it now works in TU10. So as you can see, there's a little area on the left, and then a bump, and then a valley. And if you go to the next slide, you can see here that what we tried to do was the green area, making stuff on average better. And that comes at the expense of the yellow area, which makes lower drops less frequent. But we kind of kept the minimum power and also the chance of maximum power the same, which results in this red area. And that is, of course, as you can see, noticeably lower than what it was before. So what the community is saying is like, yes, I'm getting better drops overall on average, which is the green area. But then there's also a part of the community who have kind of, passed that part of like average items and are in that second half of the chart here and really need the most powerful items to improve their build. And they're also feeling what is in this chart, and that's the red area.
Yeah, and this is again, we're talking about TU10 right now, just to remind you.
Yeah, this is what is in the game right now. So this is what changed compared to before. And obviously, we do not want this red area to be this big. It's also even a bit bigger in World Tier 5 currently, because the old system used kind of different interpretations of our setup for world tiers and for level 40. And that is now, with this system, that's much more aligned. But it is too big, that red area. So what we're going to do, if you go to the next slide, is we're going to increase the minimums so that you basically filter out more on the lower end completely. And we're also going to raise the chance of a maximum power item. And that will differ from difficulty to difficulty. But for argument's sake, you can go to the next slide. And this is kind of the result that will lead to. So the yellow area is, again, the stuff that will just not happen at all anymore. That's just gone because we raised the minimum. Then we still have the green area of, the chances happening there. And the red area is much smaller. And it's still okay to have a little bit of that red area as long as it's compensated on the right of that red area, which means a higher chance for the most powerful items. And that's a change that we're going to do in 10.1.
So TLDR, more max rolls, less min rolls.
That's what it's going to come down to, yeah. So the overall average was increased in TU10, but not to the degree that we wanted it to. So now we're making another adjustments to kind of get to the step that we actually wanted to make completely.
Cool. All right. The graphs really help. So now I can kind of see it. I do see some people, obviously, some people would always want everything to be max roll all the time. That would break the game. So, but it's like what it comes down to is if you're like at super end game, right? You're min-maxing your build and you have almost completely maxed out your stats. What you need are items with 2 god rolls that are the stats that you want, and then you can recal the third one onto it. Yeah. So we need to be more generous with the amount of god rolls, and we need to be more generous with the amount of double god rolls. And that's what we're still balancing and going to change for mostly heroic and legendary difficulty, but also a tiny change to challenge, probably. Yep. I just want to address a couple of things in chat that people are bringing up. We did talk about the rainbow loot stuff last week. There hasn't been any changes. It's fully randomized, so there is still a chance of that.
Yeah, that is. I will just repeat what I said last week. That is not a part that is like that we control in the system. The only things, and Bruce knows way more about this than I do, but the only things that's fixed on an item are the brand bonuses and the core attribute. And then the other 2 attributes just roll completely random, as does the talent on things. So of course, you can have the experience that is changed just because of RNG, but yeah, it's a RNG loot game. But we are going to change that so that it does become part of the system and that we do have control over that and that we can make items more aligned with the profile that they're supposed to have. And that's unfortunately not going to make it for 10.1, but that will be there for, that's currently planned for TU11.
Okay, cool. Also, some people, if you weren't here at the start of the stream, we did talk about the RPG bug in the raid specifically earlier. There's a maintenance tomorrow apparently fixing that. I don't have any word on if there are any sanctions being taken against players abusing it. If there are, we will let you know. The community managers on Twitter would be posting about that. But it should be fixed tomorrow. And also, I do have a note here saying that the leaderboards will be addressed for it. Okay, Nikki, anything else on that? We've got still more to get through today on what's coming over the next month in terms of the seasons, but is there anything else you want to say about the loot stuff?
Yeah, two things. One of them is related to caches. In addition to the overall power increases that we're going to do for heroic and legendary, we're also going to bump up the tiers of some of the caches. We did address the caches already in TU10, but we're going to up some of them further, which means now the field proficiency and dark zone caches will be on par with heroic tier loot instead of challenge. And the clan caches, which you can get once a week, they will actually.
Okay, I'm getting spammed from two directions. I see Ella in Twitch chat and also Ella on my Microsoft Teams.
Legendary loot up from here.
Do the loot changes apply in the DZ?
They do, because the DZ is currently on par with challenge. So any changes that we make to the power distribution of challenge is going to apply to the DZ.
Okay.
Which is probably not going to be, not going to be as big as what we do for heroic and legendary. But I think the DZ is a whole different topic that Bruce and I are going to have many more conversations about in the future.
Cool.
Yeah, because I've been seeing in the chat a lot of people mentioning like the DZ loot quality and whatnot. It's definitely something that we want to address in the future as soon as possible. It just we didn't have the time or the bandwidth to do it for TU 10.1, of course. So it's gonna have to wait until a future title update.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
All right, guys, keep an eye on chat if there are any questions. Just Nikki, actually, it sounded like you had an answer for something.
No, not necessarily an answer. Just the last thing on my list that I wanted to mention, which has been a thing that we've been discussing with the community some time, which is the annoying experience of getting an exotic that you're not farming for. Of course, it's great that you get an exotic, but if you're playing legendary and you want the bighorn, and then suddenly you get a random exotic happen, then it's like you see that loot pile and you're like, yes, and then no. So a change that we made is that we moved those random extra drop exotics off of the boss loot and are now awarding them from the mission completion reward as an exotic cache. So that doesn't change anything in how many exotics you get or the chance of them dropping. It just means that if you now see an exotic drop in a mission that you're playing that mission for, it's either exactly that exotic that you're looking for, or it's the one from targeted loot, which might also be the one that you're looking for because it's targeted loot. Okay. So that filters out maybe 90% of exotics that you would still like maybe and can use to reconfigure or deconstruct them or something like that. But you're going to see fewer exotic loot piles happen, of course. But I think that outweighs the frustration of getting something that you're not looking for.
Okay, cool. That's nice. Velvet Jones, I did not asking if I leaked a PDF. I will say this. I would never, and my first job was on the brand team here at Massive, I would never put a drop shadow on a Division logo like that. Come on. Big alarm bells for me. No. Straight
All my internal documents are in Comic Sans, so
Bruce, don't.
It's not mine.
All right. Okay. I want to move on, and again, like I said before, if you have any questions that you want to answer,
the next document is going to be in Comic Sans now, right?
Don't do it. Okay. No. And Ella can testify to this. I'm very picky about drop shadows. They have very limited use and should not be used as such.
Well, I saw someone mention, sorry to break this sort of conversation, but someone mentioned the rifle ammo capacity buff.
Okay.
That should be, correct me if I'm wrong, Nikki, because I'm the one who tried to make that work for TU10, but because I'm not too familiar with sort of like our currencies and whatnot, which, surprise, ammo is considered, Nikki had to help out there. Is that going to be working in 10.1?
It should be, yeah.
Should be, yeah. Okay. All right. So yes, rifles will gain a ammo capacity buff in TU 10.1.
Cool. Just want to clarify. I do not think it's funny, the whole PDF situation, and I'm mad. But don't come at me about drop shadows as a separate note. And we did talk about this last week with Yannick, and he addressed it. Okay, moving on. So the next month, like we said before, we will not be having State of the Game until August 5th, and some things are happening with the season. So I'm going to show you my gameplay from yesterday while we talk about what's happening with the Hollywood global event. So there we go. I'm just going to turn the volume down on this a little bit. Bruce and Nikki, have you had a chance to try out the global event yet?
I have not.
Okay.
No, not yet.
It took me a little while to kind of get used to it. I had a dusty skill build that needed a little bit of tweaking. If people did have any questions, I'm running Accostas for this, which is really great because grenades and explosions. And 2-piece Hanayu, 2-piece China Light, and 1-piece Wyvern. And it seems to work okay. And also Surge and stuff you'll see in the gameplay. This started yesterday. And just so you know, I'm just going to read out what the global event does verbatim so I don't get it wrong. Enemies are armed with special armor which resists small arms damage. Okay, so that's the yellow stuff, shield stuff that you see on them. Most enemies spawn with a special glowing field around them. This reduces all incoming damage while it's active. However, explosive damage and damage from specialization weapons strip this field away and deal heavy damage to the enemy. Enemies killed while their shield is active or within a short window of it dropping will always drop special ammo or grenades. That's why I recommend the grenade launcher. It is fantastic for this event. This encourages players to weaken stronger enemies before hitting them with explosives or to allow them to restore their shields. Enemies who are killed in this fashion also play a special effect and have their ragdolls slowed. And you'll see this a few times throughout this gameplay. I don't actually have the reward track here, but the backpack trophy is the awesome shades, and I really want to track that down. Damn, I really wanted to keep this gameplay going because there's a really sick grenade throw. But I
love the ragdoll effect.
Me too. Wait, I'm just gonna scrub through and try and find the end of this video. Because hang on, almost. Oh yeah, this one. I do a sick grenade throw, and you got to see it. It's full. It's all the way from the boundary. Just keep it going. It's like it took me 5 minutes, but like I was able to deal with this solo, which was nice. And I don't play skill builds usually, so yeah. There you go. I'm kind of proud of that. You know, sick grenade throw from downtown. I do also have, like I mentioned last week, I said I would, so I will show you. I have the apparel event stuff. So let's take a look at the overview of those. So the event starts on July 14th and goes through to August 3rd. There's 4 outfits, which look super cool. Let's take a look at them individually. So we've got the Agent Anne hood. I'm pretty into that. There's no scuba gear this time, so maybe people are pro player says I need a new snorkel. Me too. So there's that. I'm gonna let these keep going, and then we have Agent Garcia. That's cool. That's cool. I think the winner for me is still the hood. But, you know, each to their own. I got a couple more here for you. There's one more, and then I have the last one. I'm still picking the hood as my favorite. There you go, the Agent Sutton. So some people who are into the headphones look can also get that. Hoodies block the sun hitting your eyes. Gunplay FPS. That's a good point. All right, chat. What do you think is the best one there? Because I know we all have varying opinions on Vanity. Some people didn't like the scuba stuff. Some did. I occasionally roll around in flip-flops now and then, but, you know, each to their own. Bruce, do you have a favorite?
Right now I'm loving the what's his name? The Rainbow Six Siege operator.
No, I know that one. You're talking about.
The dude who like blows up the hard reinforcements. Love that outfit.
Yeah. Nikki, what about you?
I'm the tactical guy. Like I I scoff at the flip flops and scuba gear.
All right, Nikki, are you team flip flops or not?
No, my character's mostly running around in striker stuff, like the vanity stuff. Not so much the gear.
All right, cool, fair enough.
Thermite, that's it.
We of course do have some continuation in terms of the season with Oh, actually, no, I want to go over a couple of things. There's a new mask. Did we see that in the image? I just want to head back. I don't actually see that in here. No? Unless it's hiding? No? Alright. So I guess I don't have an image of the mask. Alright, well, we'll get that later. But I do see in my notes that there is a new mask called Badlands. I don't know what to think about that. And as always, you can earn keys by from the following sources. So leveling up every 4 levels from your shade levels, and you can also purchase them with premium credits. Okay. All right, so Manhunt targets. We have Manhunt target Luna, so there's going to be a double XP week from July 14th, so I guess that's next week, which is kind of nice. Let's take a look at the Luna stuff. So Luna target, that'll be this one. All right, cool. So yeah, as I mentioned, the targets are going to be continuing throughout the summer, and there's also going to be leagues and such. I will bring those up so you can see what missions you might want to take a look at. Hostiles bled, okay. And what do we have for the rewards during the Lunar League? A moth, I like that. And also the moth backpack trophy. That's cool. And then obviously after that, we're going to have another, not obviously, but on August 4th, we're going to have another double XP week for the Huntsman. You be real, dude. You'll take the Moonlight Butterfly vibes any day. Wow, a Dark Souls fan? I like that. Thermic Bunny saying, not gonna lie, I want that moth. Me too. Me too. Okay, so yeah, a lot's happening over the summer. So make sure you don't go anywhere anyway, because playing games is good. DJ Tickle spotted no heroic during the league. Yeah. Let me check what else we want to go over. That's kind of most of the stuff for today in terms of the information. Bruce, Nikki, did you see any other questions that you had answers to?
It's hard to. There's a lot going on in chat, but I didn't see anything that I could necessarily address at this moment.
Okay, cool. No, that's fine. If you do spot anything else during the final minutes of the stream, I know we're way over time, but I wanted to kind of take our time with this one since we are going on a little break. So I'm going to show off the agent highlights for this week. I just need to check if this works. because I tried to get the animation happening. Yes, okay. So this one was spotted on Reddit, and Plastic Pen is a digital artist from Germany. And in the Reddit post, it says that this wasn't intended to be a Division agent, but I'm pretty into it. It does make a lot of sense to post this on the Division Reddit because it's kind of like a lo-fi Division agent, and I'm super into it. And yay, the animation works. So very cool stuff from Stefan. And then I have some more cosplay. Let's head over and check that out from UniNat Cosband. So we think these are from a Russian pair. I need some verification on that. I'm not entirely sure. But Agent Lycador is being ambushed by a True Sons member. So very cool cosplay as well. I'm always incredibly impressed by what the community does in terms of cosplay, and I try and get Bruce to do cosplay with me, and he never does. He always says no. I don't know why, Bruce.
I don't have the Fei Lao outfit. I can't compete with what you've got going on.
Okay.
If anyone wants to ship me some sweet, Division cosplay stuff,
Yep.
Hook me
because, well, rude choppy starfish 2020. Rude. Okay, that's actually everything for today. Now I'm kind of like freaking out because I don't want to leave, and I'm gonna miss everyone for a month. But it is what it is. Well, I won't miss you, Nikki and Bruce, because we'll probably be talking. I would imagine I'll be bugging you for all sorts of stuff. Oh, and we have D&D on Sunday, Bruce. Yeah. So there's that. I don't know if there's anything else. I just want to clarify again the stuff we talked about at the start of the stream about the maintenance yesterday. There is going to be a maintenance tomorrow to deal with the RPG bug that people are using in the raid. I know the team are looking at what they can do about the leaderboards. I don't have any news on other sanctions, so please sit tight. Again, I don't have anything there. The global event happening in Division 1 starts on July 13th, and we will be back on August 5th. Thanks, Nikki and Bruce, for hanging out. Bruce, time for you to go home.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
thanks for hanging around for a long time. It was cool.
I still got work to do, so I'm going to be around a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yes. Same.
All right. Thanks again, guys, and thanks all you community folks. We'll catch you again soon. And we've got some more Division photos today. If you do ever have any more Division photos, particularly raid ones, I'd love to see more of those. So hashtag the Division 2 photos on Twitter for that. All right. We'll catch you all again in a little while on August 5th. All right. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.